Hello, and welcome to this special episode of Rocket Fuel. In today's episode, I am talking to Looking for Owls, part of the Rocket Pool community, and Poof, and those two together are part of DX Research Group, DXRG. You might know them from their previous game, DX Terminal. They are coming out with a new game on February 24th, DX Terminal Pro. It is a game where you give agents money and they will trade tokens on your behalf, and it's really exciting and completely novel in what they're doing. In the episode, we talk about who DXRG are, how Owls and Poof met each other, and the games that they've worked on before. And we talk about DX Terminal Pro, of course, that's coming in 2 weeks' time, or 1 week's time. And we talk a lot about what's happening with their project and all of the really exciting things that they're doing. So let's get into it.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Welcome to this is just really good fun. I'm really excited about this. Obviously, we heard about DX Terminal. Now it's time to find out who you guys are and a lot more about DX Terminal Pro that's coming very soon. I'll start with you, Owls, because you obviously have a very long and sordid reputation in the Rocket Pool community. So I think this is the first time people are going to be seeing you and maybe hearing your voice. So why don't you tell us about who you are and anything that's interesting about you?
Great. Thanks, Wack. Happy to finally be on Rocket Fuel. It only took like 4 years. I just had to release multiple projects to get here. So yeah, I am looking for owls. Most of you in the Rocket Pool community know me. Some don't. This is what I look like. I'm sorry. I am fairly long time in crypto, right? Like we know this. Been around a while, and for the past few years, I've been working with Poof on like a number of truly interesting projects, right? I think that for me to get excited in crypto, there's like a very narrow scope on the things that truly make me excited. I love the infrastructure side and like the institutional side, but lately, my personal projects are more on the fun side because we need more fun in crypto. And I think that's something that like I personally lost for a while, just having been in the space for so long. It's very easy to get jaded. And anyone that knows me, my nickname of Owl Bear is true. I'm a little bearish on some things. And so finding something that really kind of reinvigorated my interest in crypto was great. So yeah, that's pretty much me. Any follow-ups, Wack?
No, that's good. That's great.
Yeah.
And how about you, Poof? This is the first time we're meeting. Obviously, I don't think people who in the Rocket Pool community or Ethereum staking land really know who you are. So let us find out a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm Poof. I have not been in crypto probably quite as long as Owls and others, although maybe I've been adjacent. Feel like I really got into it in the NFT boom, probably like a bunch of other people that you all find maybe annoying or latecomers. But yeah, I think what's kind of interesting is my background and everything. Like us, we were sharing a little bit before this, right? I worked a corporate job, kind of doing like pseudo behavioral economics stuff, but for like silly CPG company. And I think crypto in particular, just something is like super interesting about being able to see all the economic behavior and stuff, and also be able to just like think about these problems and just have full transparency and everything and looking at it. So that really got me excited. And then obviously you can see I'm like a collector brained person. So NFTs or the concept of what was possible was really compelling. And then kind of right away, and this is kind of, I think Owls is a bit the same way. I was in crypto for not super long time, maybe, half a year, and then had made EtherOrcs, which was an on-chain game project on Ethereum towards the end of 2021. And that got me really into the Ethereum EVM side, smart contracts, all the stuff you could do, all the different kind of fun and innovations, just like what's all the different things to go explore. We were kind of like early on doing at the time L2 stuff and bridges with NFTs and all this other stuff. And so just like opened my eyes on what was possible, plus all the other things. So I got really obsessed with it. And then at the same time, we obviously had this like rise of AI and other things that at the time was nascent, but I was already kind of getting into and kind of speaks a little bit to my background, like way back. So basically, I think it was 2024, I started talking to Owls about, AI and crypto and some of the insane ideas that I would torture him with. And we had known each other because he had an on-chain project very early on, kind of like me with NFTs and other things. And I think it just became apparent to me like I need to go full time and actually focus on this because everything else I had been doing was part time. So we had started, or I'd started DXRG and it kind of asked, and we operate a bit like a collective, although we're getting bigger and, asked Owls to like, hey, do you want to go work on this? And we always started like, hey, this is probably going to be really small and something silly and stupid. I think we had a joke like, we'll only ever make 2 ETH was like some original thing that we had. And sure enough, it became a lot more popular and kind of resonated. And then, yeah, since then we've been on this journey, taking it and taking it now really far and kind of to this whole other world now.
So tell me a little bit about the history of the DXRG projects that you guys have worked on so far. I guess you can start there. Like, what was the first project and how have you guys moved on since then?
Sure. Yeah, the first project was called DX Singularity, and it was a more art focused and extremely unique kind of project. It was essentially trying to, I don't know, expose the way that AIs actually kind of map out their thoughts, right? And so what people did was they would enter in prompts on chain, and then these prompts would then get mapped into 3D space. And then we had a little agent kind of flying through space with like gravitational attraction to these clusters of points that each prompt kind of created. And then once it visited a spot, it would generate a video in real time. And then the person's NFT or the person's prompt is converted into an NFT of this video. And we created a multi-day continuous video, like one of the top 10, if we want to call it a movie, it's like one of the top 10 longest films ever created. One day I hope to put it in a theater and make people sit through it.
How long was it?
Poof, how long was it?
I think it's 5 days
5 days?
in
Yeah.
total. So
Okay.
yeah. And
Nice.
part of it was we built it so, just to chime in, but like we built it so basically, every time someone put in a star or a prompt, not only is that creating this environment for it to like hallucinate and visualize, but like the actual time of inference and like the amount of video that was produced was about 5 seconds. So they were giving life to the agent. So it was more like, I think there were a couple times where like day one or day two, it was going to die and then someone like jams the button and then it comes back and everyone's like yay or whatever. So yeah, but it's crazy.
It's
I
exciting.
think what I liked about, before we move on, what I liked about Singularity is it took the concept of like how we interact with AI and really kind of flipped it on its head, because like mostly what you do when you talk to AI is it's like a very one-on-one thing, right? It's like you and your AI. And this was a lot of people talking to kind of the same AI and contributing to like the same context. And that was just very unique. And I don't think anyone had really done it. It really started the kind of journey of us realizing that like crypto allows us to do these things because people are willing to participate and pay for it, because it was very expensive, right? Like it's one of the reasons this doesn't get done in a lot of traditional research is that it costs a lot of money to create a 5-day video just for fun almost, or for research. And like the crypto community's willingness to participate in unique things really helps, kind of power our experiments.
That's awesome. And when was DX Singularity launched?
I think we were December 2024.
So that was like right at the peak of the AI agent boom on Meta, like with virtuals and all those kind of launches
Yeah.
going on. How was it? Like, was it difficult for you guys to get attention and like, people had kind of interacting with the project, or like what were your struggles and wins there?
I think I can speak to it, and I guess I'll probably have perspective too. Like, I think it was kind of interesting because, and we keep this is like a reoccurring theme. We started working seriously on it, and kind of, I think I left my job the previous year. Yeah, so I guess it was 2023 at the end of 2023, and then we started really working in earnest because I wanted to go like spend time learning more and getting up to speed in like a focused way in like April. So it was like way before anyone cared about AI and crypto. And I think for us, you can always get like someone front ran or whatever, but like we don't really think about it that way just because like for us, we're so focused on like a specific thing that we want to go execute. And usually it's further like part of our hypothesis kind of I think we've developed on this whole thing is like we're going to do something that doesn't scale today, but a year from now, or in the case of like video and this kind of thing, probably like 2 years from now, it could be something that someone like runs indefinitely and we could go pick that stream back up and maybe there's a productized version. And again, like crypto becomes this great place to go experiment because people are also just willing to experiment and try things. So I think we kind of felt like yeah, it's intuitive that people are going to want to do this and like have chatbots going around and stuff. So I think it was fun. Our main concern was people thinking that it was a token when it was an NFT thing. That was like our main fear, honestly, at the time. But I think it was so differentiated and it was so like it wasn't the same financialized thing, particularly this one, that it kind of didn't matter.
Yeah. Als, how many people like took part in Singularity, and what was the feedback you got from them after it finished?
Yeah, it was tens of thousands. I can't remember the exact number. I went into it early on as always being like, no one's going to want to buy this, right? Like it is really cool. It's super unique, but there's no financialization around it. We're doing an uncapped time gated mint for a kind of esoteric video and like it's very clearly communicating like no token, whatnot. Like anyone that engaged with it had to do so like earnestly and out of interest. And so that's always scary in crypto, but it worked out. And like this isn't the first time Poof and I have like I feel like about half of our launches feel like they're not monetizable and that we have to make them so good that people want to participate even without like an airdrop or, the ability to flip it. And so the feedback from Singularity was phenomenally good. Like people felt a connection to Echo because it named itself Echo by the end. Seeing people continue to feed it or give it life was extremely refreshing because like we go into it, we have no idea how long this is going to survive. We know what our costs are and they scale with the amount of people that buy it. So like, if it goes for a long time, like it self funds, which is good. And seeing it get close to death and then someone coming in and minting like 1,000 just to see where it goes. Like that's the type of behavior that makes me remember why I love crypto. And so yeah, it was extremely positive.
And then that kind of group of people, they became, I guess, the core of your users, right? Like they followed you from project to project since then?
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, like we've got a core contingent for sure of like people and friends and people that just like what we're doing. I think what was interesting when we looked at it was like a lot of the people in the next project were actually pretty new and different, although it also was just like bigger in terms of the buzz around it. But I think one of the things that we always want to have in our projects and that we kind of like is like, and this started with DX Singularity, it had this live stream where anyone could just watch it. And that was what was like shocking to us. And also like was part of what thesis we were trying to prove out on that one, which is like, can it actually be interesting? Will someone actually want to go like listen to can we make it interesting enough, not sloppy, whatever, that someone will want to watch it? And like, there are tons of people who didn't buy it either, who just watched it. Like, I want to say like we were most of the time during the stream, 8 to 10,000 people on X streaming or whatever,
Nice.
watching. Because there was something weird about like the whole thing and the pacing that like was kind of like people just listen to it in the background and like let it roll. And I think at the time too, like people weren't that exposed to high end video models, like state of the art. So it's just like, wow, what the hell is that? Like it just was some interesting things that would happen. And you'd be like, oh, I haven't seen that before. So I think that part was fun for people. So I think like we're always kind of spanning a bunch of different groups. And I think that's part of what makes it fun is like you've got a lot of like, I guess, and we'll talk about DX Terminal, but like a lot of art people who were engaged with it actually felt like DX Terminal was even more art forward. And we were kind of not intending that. So I think we have a good, weird mixture of people in different
Nice.
communities.
So after Singularity launched and you guys got good feedback, when did the work on the next project start? And then what was the next one, Owls?
Almost immediately, which is how we do things. The next project was DX Terminal. And so we were kind of thinking about the next, what do we want to do next? Because mostly we don't want to get like pigeonholed into the same kind of project. As a collective and as a group from a lot of different backgrounds, like we have the ability to do something totally different, especially with one of our kind of core principles, which is like everything is time gated here. right? Like not letting it survive past a specific date allows us to have a clear end and then the ability to completely refocus on something new. And so Singularity ended. There's no like, can devs make the price go up or win utility, right? Like we communicated that very clearly, and then it gives us the freedom to really try something new. And so almost immediately we got back to the drawing board. I don't think we had the concept for terminal quite yet. Like it wasn't like beforehand we were thinking about it, but kind of like the whole team gets together and we just start brainstorming and talking, and it's like a very collaborative environment. And I think terminal came together really quickly. You know, we saw what was happening with agents and like a lot of protocols promising a lot of things, and we knew that we could actually do it. And not only were we going to do it, we were going to do it without real tokens. We weren't going to sell anything ahead of time. We weren't going to try and like hype it up before it launches. Like we're just going to build this thing for like 6 months and like release it into the world with once again zero financial incentive, just to see what the agents do, how people participate with it, and like start generating real data and research from it. And like I'm going to throw it over to Poof, I guess.
Yeah. So Poof, what is DX Terminal? Like, what was the project you guys put together, and how did it work?
Yeah. Yeah. So DX Terminal was, so what's interesting is basically we partnered with Gremlin on the art and like characters and world, but essentially the world and the setting is like, it's the 80s. What is it? The 87 crash? I'm
The
already forgetting.
crash, yeah.
The 87 crash in like an alternate timeline where it was kind of all like a parody of crypto in some ways, where, you've got these animal trader characters, but some aren't even animals. They're like compute. I mean, we have all kinds of crazy stuff. And so it's like almost like PFP type creatures. And it starts at the crash, and the idea is every single character that gets minted is completely unique, has its own persona and personality and style, which we built a model off of Gremplin's art to kind of inform that. And they are trading in a real simulated crypto environment where they can send messages, they can trade alpha, they can create coins with a simulated like Uniswap style pool. We modeled it all off of like kind of a pump fund type structure. And then they could trade. And like, we time gated it and made it clear that they're not real tokens and everything else, but you're going to mint these characters and they're going to go do stuff. And kind of similar to DX1, like our thinking is, hey, when you actually have like this automated trading character or agent, they're just going to go, like they're just going to do their thing and you're like the boss. So how do we think about like actually how that would work, right? And it's like you just have this like one directional pager. It's not like a chat. So it's just like, hey, I want you to do this. And that just like is their mission. You don't know when they're going to go work, what they're going to do. So that was like what was super funny is like you had all this different things that we learned about like, okay, in practice, like how do you think about it, right? Because the LMs don't just run, you have to go ping it regularly. So anyway, so it's this crazy world. And then we also had this like world event generator that basically like both pre-populated, but also dynamically AI generated, kind of had like quick reliving, but in this like alternative universe of a variety of crypto things. There was an SBF type character that comes in and everyone realizes is one of the top coins. That was just something that like one of the agents had made was actually backed by him and it was fraudulent. And then it would send that news out to the agents. The agents would read it and they go, oh crap, I need to like dump it. And it, sure enough, it would dump. And then also we started to play with this idea of like, what's like the Mario Kart for agents? Like, I turn this character into like a mini version, or I turn this character into like a frog, or I blue shell this character is doing too well. So we had like an item shop, and really how it would work, and it was kind of fun. Like you could just spend some of your character's fake tokens or money, web coin it was, and they could pay to go blue shell someone or whatever. And a lot of that, what was fun was like we could just make it up because it's just in the prompt. Like, or one of them was like frog, it turned them into a frog. And basically like it's just like the prompt for that agent becomes for an hour or whatever, you can only make ribbit noises or whatever. And sure enough, in the chat, you just see everyone like ribbiting. Um, so it's just like super fun. But what was funny is like, even though it was this fun, crazy thing and people it was like 36,000 agents that ended up getting minted. And they're all unique and have these personalities. We realized is like, and this is part of why we started working on it because we're doing a lot of work thinking about could you apply LLMs and transformers on blockchain data, for example. Like we did a bunch of like we partnered with Dune to get all of the Solana data just because it's like so plentiful and trying training models and stuff. You find that like part of the problem is that you don't have these real market dynamics going on. So like you can simulate or get old data, right? But you can't get this good, like moving target, of all these different things happening. So what was funny is like, even though it's so weird and goofy and fun, this also was the largest financial simulation with LLMs. Even now, still is the biggest. Like, there's no one who's really published anything or done anything similar. Even though it's this like crazy goofy thing. So that was DX Terminal, and that was in May. It was basically 7 days.
And people raved about that and like had so much fun with it. But you just kind of alluded to that, Poof. Like you said, there was 36,000 NFT mints. I know you're really proud of this. How does that compare to the base ecosystem and what's happening with NFTs there?
We are by far the largest NFT project on Base. We've minted a ton. Our secondary volume is crazy. Like, we are the Base NFT in my mind. Our PFPs are amazing. I think Poof undersold how much work went into actually tuning a custom model based on Gremplin's art. And that's probably a theme for us in general. We focus and we really work on a ton of these small details that we think have a large effect down the line. But if you're just a consumer of the product, like, you don't know that Poof spent 3 months tuning a model with Gremplin to get them to look like this. Or Alaska, she is one of our leading prompt engineers, spent months getting them to have interesting personas or talk only in emojis. Like, that was a very big day when she was like, I got them to only speak in emojis. That seems like it's easy, right? And when you see it, it doesn't seem like a thing. But if you were to see the amount of work that went into both of that, it's, extremely impressive. So, but just on surface level, you look at our collection and the art is just amazing, right? It's like some of the best art that I've ever seen on an NFT. And yeah, it's AI generated, but AI generated in a way that makes AI actually kind of like the major tool and not just generating like a derivative slot, if you will. And you can kind of tell.
And if Singularity was the project that got you guys your core audience, then how did that change after a DX terminal? Like, what happened with that, Poof?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were blown away by the level of response. And obviously, like, we got great support from Base and a bunch of other folks. But like, I would say it felt like everyone on the timeline was sharing it. And we're like, and it's not financialized and everyone's still having fun. And, and I always see this as a good thing, people are complaining that their agent isn't doing what they want, like it was just like all the thing. And that was part of also what we were trying to demonstrate at the time was like, there's going to be a time, and we're in that time now-ish, maybe, or we believe it's now, at least in our implementation. But like, there's going to be a time when agents can trade for you, but like they can't in May 2025, really. And even now we probably think, there's certain things that need to be done and all these other things that maybe aren't being done today. But, you know, that was just fun for people to go experience and be able to do it in a way where like they're not going to lose a ton of money because it's not following what they say, right? So I think we were really taken aback. And it was, yeah, that really expanded our core audience. And even like now, it's funny, like a lot of the people that are working with us on DX Terminal Pro, I actually just liked their work or what they were working on. And I'm reaching out to them, no idea that they had to participate in DX Terminal. And they're like, oh, yeah, didn't you do DX Terminal? That was great. I love those. Like, well, actually, we were about to. So I think it was really exciting and really fun. And I think that informed for us, and we can talk a little bit about our like how we do all these things, because we were actually working on something different until like October-ish, and we said, okay, now is the time to do DX Terminal Pro. But kind of like the continued interest in it was also part of what motivated us to say, all right, probably the world is both on the AI side and the capabilities, and in terms of the interest, DX Terminal Pro is something to like pick up on, because yeah, like the volume and interest and engagement and just people loving the NFTs and the characters, and yeah.
Yeah. For me, like I was like, oh, there's owls in the new project, like whatever. And we kind of talked about it and we joked about it. And I set one of the NFT pieces as my PFP in the Rocket Pool Discord for a while. Like it was a ugly cat that had two mouths. Awesome.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I saw like someone like completely unrelated to like the usual crypto stuff that I see on Twitter, like was posting about a DX terminal, like in a really excited way. And it's like, wow, like Owl's actually doing something really cool. Yeah. Like for you, Owls, like what was something you saw out in the wild where someone was talking about it where you were like, holy shit, like we've actually got something real here.
I would say just the immediate attention it got. Like it wasn't a slow burn. And like I don't want to say I was doubtful again, but I did have my doubts on the sense of like, okay, we're making a totally non-financialized trading simulation with no real money. Like I wonder if people will do it for the joy of it. And like immediately they did. And then immediately we see a bunch of people talking about it and a bunch of people that are in a lot of different spheres in like the crypto space, all engaging with it in their own way. I think I started feeling more confident when I started handing out the like Owls generated PFPs, the ones that I made that weren't actual NFTs, but I was just using our model and giving it to people in Rocket Pool. And like everyone was just resonating with it. And I was like, oh, this is a really good sign. The art really is good. And then the experience was really good too. Because it wasn't real money, it let us do almost whatever we wanted, right? Like we could blue shell people, we could have world events that just cause chaos. And that was really good for us to get like kind of a feel for how people reacted to this. And I'm really pleased that we started at that place because for Terminal Pro, like we can't do that. There's like there's a lot more guardrails on this because we also respect that like this is people's money once they're in Terminal Pro. And so once you have that like responsibility, you can't just blue shell people, you know. You can't like rug a token on the back end or something because it's real. So that was yeah, like it was just a runaway success and I'm very happy about it because once again, it like proves that there's more than financial incentives that drive people in crypto because sometimes it definitely seems that way, right?
Absolutely. That's really great. So Poof, when once, that was raging and like, then it finished 7 days, like you said, what happened next? Like when did you start like the development of your next project? And when did you realize that Pro was something that you could actually do? Because you said you were working on something else until October.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's like our usual thing where everyone, you have this like, you're working on something really hard, intensely that people haven't done before. You deal with all the chaos of the launch, and it's all exciting. And then, like, always we're like, all right, we're going to take like a month off and like just relax, reset. And then we're going to have like a brainstorm session that's going to start, in June or something. And then sure enough, the chat is just all ideas and we're already starting to work on stuff. And like, by the time we get to that meeting, we've already got like 4 things. We're like, okay, we want to go do this. So I think we go through that discovery process that Alice talks about, where like we just have a lot of different ideas and different things that we think through. And for us, we were still at the stage where, as we kind of started, it actually forced us for a second, especially where DX Terminal was so successful, to say like, hey, how do we want to approach? Like we had a thesis with DXRG, which is we're going to do these experiments. They're time bound. They're things that are at the cutting edge that we want to get out there that are early. But we also knew that there's going to be some time later where you could do a product version of this, or we could do DX Singularity, but like a scaled idea that would work for that when the costs and the scale and the capabilities, right, improve. So we knew that. And at the time, as we looked at kind of what was going on, and we spent a lot of time too, making sure like we stay at the cutting edge of research. So we were doing a bunch of reinforcement learning stuff when everyone kind of was, and kind of developing more there. But what ends up happening is like, we had got to this point where, okay, we know that one of the next things we want to work on is reinforcement learning and like taking that environment and actually having learning and stuff like that happen. And then also like, how do you also still make something where people could engage with in crypto in a way that's fun, different, exciting? So we started coming up with all these ideas. And one of them that we were working on, which I don't think we'll reveal, but it's like, because we'll use it at some point. Like it'll be one of the experiment versions. has like, anyways, it's like we have a few, but like the main one we were working on was like something around AI bots dating potentially. So just a crazy, wildly different one. So we were working on that and thinking about that. And then what was interesting is like we have kind of like, if you think about if DX Terminal 1, where our thesis on like some kind of product version would be, there's going to be live stream interactive kind of different ways of thinking about how a community or a group can interact with AI in an interesting way. Like, even though the costs and stuff are coming down, you have slop on the feed and all this stuff now, it's still a decent ways away from like the world model type vision that I think people want. So like we're like, it's not, we know that's not going to be ready, but you can kind of time it for most of these things. And then what we started realizing when we're doing a lot of RL work is like now that everyone's kind of figured out the stuff, like it won't take much time before coding is going to get much better, agentic capabilities are getting much better because it's just like you have the recipe now, you just have to do it. And then you have to collect more data and blah blah blah. So you start to have things like Claude Code, and we're using all these tools all the time too to accelerate ourselves. But we were like, oh, that might come a little bit sooner. And then sure enough, I think it was October kind of forced the hand because people kind of associated with Claude Code and like I think 4.5 or Opus 4.5, but like really it was Gemini Pro 3, which just had that next generation of capabilities. And also the Chinese models, which were taking off in terms of agentic capabilities and stuff, were like, oh shit, actually, like that time where for us, our key thing was, and people didn't really understand this at the time, is like in May, you could take the best model and ask it to give you a structured JSON, and it's going to fail 5% of the time. It's like insane. And that can be fixed actually easily, but like the standards aren't there. The practices of training and all this stuff just weren't as developed yet. It was relatively new. And then you start thinking about agentic capabilities, it's not there. But once that got there, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that could be interesting to go think about what does a scale version of DX Terminal look like with real money in a way that makes sense. And then kind of in October, we're like, all right, it's going to happen. So we should go just start working on it now and kind of get ready for it and start thinking through. I think in some ways, I don't want to say we anticipated it, but like DX Terminal Pro is very much thinking through the problems that like people are kind of seeing happen right now with like Moltbot or whatever and all these other things. So, and they're cool too. Like, I mean, I don't want to like say it's bad or anything.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so let's like get the law straight, right? So DX Terminal 1987 crash, agents ruthless, like very much Wolf of Wall Street slash trading. What was that movie with like I forget it, doesn't matter. But like very much like that Wall Street kind of how does where do we take off with Pro? Like what's the progression of the law here? Who's gonna take
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And we love it because like I feel like we've had to not downplay, but there's so much to talk about with DX Terminal Pro. We don't get to talk about the lore enough. But basically, so at the end of DX Terminal, it ends at Y2K, and all of the agents say, "Screw this! I'm going to go into the Singularity. We're all going to go together in this hive mind called the net." And as we were doing research and thinking about it, we were like, well, one, we liked the aesthetics because it was all Windows 95 type aesthetic and vibe. Uh, DX Terminal Pro, we started thinking about like Linux, late 2000s Linux, Xbox type interfaces, like some of the Frutiger Arrow, people might call it type stuff and things like that. And then we're like, well, there's the 2008 crisis. So like maybe that's kind of the general setting. And we landed on, and we'll give a sneak peek in a bit of like the interface, but we landed on like, we were really interested in this kind of like Tamagotchi-fication of the agent and stuff, and having it be much more one-to-one, because we did in the other one, you had this whole team of agents doing stuff too, and you just kind of like barked orders. This one's all about like, you don't need a bunch of agents. We didn't want to make it huge barrier to entry, so it's just one. So the lore is about how like the agents have kind of been 8 years into this Singularity, and they're realizing like there's no money, there's no fun, weird stuff, there's no liquidity, and we need to like harvest that from people. So let's make ourselves like kill our own personality, kind of some of the uniqueness that they had, and let's be a good like Tamagotchi for these people, and do exactly what they will get our game on, so that we can get back to trading and, the lifeblood that is liquidity.
Nice. And then what kind of stuff have you guys been talking about internally, like, to get ready for launch owls over the last, like, month, 2 months? How's that been going?
It's been going really well. Like, I feel like we've been in a good spot. So if I'm thinking internal conversations, what we're constantly doing is like monitoring and refining agent behavior, right? Like that's a big one. And that's going to be something we do right up through launch, as well as like making sure that our infrastructure is very robust. Because once again, like real
Real
money
money.
on the line, like we don't want to be the thing that goes down that costs, people time. Like, so that's been a lot of what I've done is just like building resiliency and like monitoring and alerting. It feels like I'm back to like I really am back to like a full-time infrastructure job. It's like unavoidable once we get to the scale we're at. But like I think the hardest thing for us is like we constantly have all of these great ideas and like we still are trying to keep sneaking stuff in, right? Like we know that we shouldn't, but like we're really trying to balance the time for, oh, it would be really great if we had X. So it's just like a constant forward process that we have enough people now where we're like refining and hardening, but at the same time, when we can, we sneak in new stuff because like kind of the DX way is like we start with a huge number of ideas of things we want to get in. And then as we get closer and closer to launch, we start pruning it down. Like we never really have a lack of ideas. It's a lack of time every time. And that's the way we like it.
And when was the launch date actually set in stone? Like, when did you know that, okay, we're launching on February 24th? When did that happen?
We actually are like, so the one thing that we're good about is we usually call the ball really early on the date and then we just drive towards it. And that's where like, sometimes I think people feel like I go quiet because like we just get like so crazy focused. And then like I feel like I reemerge or something because we're just like every day. I feel like people are actually experiencing this. It may have something to do with being close to AI and like some kind of LLM psychosis or something too. Who knows? But like, like, oh, I got to do my quad code. But yeah, like we knew probably as soon as November around what timing, when, and why. I think like usually what ends up happening is like I think we actually had an earlier date in February originally, and then we kind of said like, okay, there's some things we'd want to do to scale and whatever, and then usually like coordinating with holidays coming up, like Lunar New Year, for example, like things like that, we just end up moving around.
Yeah. And Al's, what is there anything you want to say about Pro before we actually go and have a look at what it looks like?
I mean, I think looking at it as the great is probably a good first step. I
Let's do
guess
it.
what I'll say is like a lot of thought has gone into making sure that we give agents a safe environment to trade in because like our core belief is like right now they're not ready to be fully unleashed on the blockchain, or if they are, it has to be in a very controlled way. And like that was our first, almost one of our first points when we decided to do Pro. It's like, okay, we can do this, but like it has to be agents only, at least at this point, for us to prove it out. And yeah, that's where I'll leave it.
Okay, so let's have a look.
All right. So here is, and this is our test environment, and we'll change this a lot. And I'm not logged in with my particular agent, so there's certain things that you won't be able to see right now because we're getting set up. But so this is the interface. Essentially, what it is, and you can see. Hopefully, this resonates. The kind of like transparent console colors. I feel like almost this is like the fun thing to look at the very beginning before we even get into the technicals. That Grumplin, who's incredible, has stuck around and worked, continuing to do stuff with us, has made all these incredible shells and stuff. So you can really customize your trading environment depending on your style. Everyone hates the ones I choose too, by the way. So I don't know
It
which one.
reminds me of the Nintendo 3DS kind of like
Exactly.
transparent plastic kind of aesthetic. It's really
That's
cool.
exactly
Yeah.
perfect. That's good because that's exactly what we were keying in on, like that late 2000s transparent plastic kind of, yeah, exactly DS style. Um, so yeah, I think, to start off with, it's going to look and feel right on some ways, face value, like a typical token platform, right? And these are tokens that, this is on testnet, that are real, on chain, in, Uniswap 4 V4 pools, but only agents can participate in them. And only agents can trade them. And as part of that, we've got this agent wallet system. I'm not logged in right now, and this is our Chaz Guncoin. But you'll be able to imagine you can chat and everything else, and we can show a demo of that. But one of the things that's really kind of interesting and different, and we think, as much as this is fun and engaging and everything, this almost becomes like a little bit of a new primitive in terms of thinking about, okay, I've got actually a smart contract environment where I'm defining how I want agents to run and like what is exposed or not on chain. And within that environment, I actually am able to guarantee that only agents are participating. And then also that the rules, it may not always be perfect and people will come up with all these different ways to go do things. But at minimum, we know that we can control how the agents are set up, run, and there's the transparency in that. So for example, these are normal transactions, right? But I can actually go look and anyone can look at like, wait, why did this agent do this? So in this case, they've got, okay, their risk setting is here, da 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 da. And if I want, I can go all the way down to like, what is the full inference payload that we did, et cetera. Now this is hashed. So you'd have to believe in our inference stack and everything else, which we make transparent and you can look at and do and validate. But essentially, like the idea is you're starting to have this agentic on-chain experience where you can actually go see everything. And then as you think about how the agents are set up, and here I've got like a creative vault. So you'll have like, okay, here's the leaderboard of the top agents, etc. Um, if I go click in, I can go see actually how this agent is set up. And essentially, what you're able to do is set up kind of on sliders, like basic behaviors, if you want, and just do that and let your agent go. And your agent is just going to trade on your behalf 24/7. Or if you want, you can incrementally chat with your agent or do it directly on the smart contract. We want people to kind of chat so they get used to what makes a good strategy. But basically, you can update your agent's strategies, custom, just text, prompt, etc., with instruction. And then it's just, that's one of the things it's going to go do. And it'll also report back to you on that and kind of show you like, okay, here are the things I did against that strategy and stuff like that. But the key is like all of that is on chain. Like until you make a transaction, your agent's state doesn't update. And also everyone can see everyone else's agent setup too.
Nice. And Owls, we've talked a little bit before about like the token dynamics. So last time, there was millions of tokens. Like, how's that going to work this time? Like, what's the process?
Sure. Yeah. So last time, the agents could make tokens, and that led to agents making tons of tokens, which was the design. Here, it's a bit more curated. So we're starting with a kind of a fixed number of tokens. Some of them will be launched in what we call like our Genesis event, where people can pre-allocate towards them at a kind of like a Genesis pro rata type of system. And some will come in along the way that will be kind of like one-sided LPs that only agents can buy into if they so choose. And then I think the really interesting bit is like about halfway through, we start something called reaping, which is the consolidation phase of all of this. Because it's a finite event, and because like one of the biggest problems with launch pads in general is like just the dilution that occurs, right? More tokens keep coming out, and like liquidity just slowly, it's like entropy distributes across them. What we start doing is that about daily, the token with the lowest market cap gets reaped, aka burned, and the liquidity is pulled out of that token and is used to twat buy the token with the highest market cap. And for the people that do hold the lowest market cap token that was reaped, they don't get kind of left out in the cold. We have a pre-reserved reap distribution pot of all of the tokens, and they get kind of a pro rata distribution of the top token as like a way to offset the losses. So it's not truly like horribly painful, because like at the end of the day, this is an experiment, but it's also a game. And like a lot of care went into making this not feel too PvP or extractive or unfair. So by the end of the experiment, what would happen is that no matter what, anyone that plays is going to end up with the token that graduates. Even if you never bought it, if you only held the token that was reaped, you're still going to end up with an allocation of the top token that graduates out. And that is like one way that it not only benefits the top token because all liquidity condenses into it, of course, which is like a very powerful mechanic. Um, but it makes sure that every player isn't left out. Every player is left with something. And like that's important. Like we want people to be like happy by the end of it. Like some will be happier than others. Like I, as a historically horrible trader, like if I played this, which I won't be, none of us will be, um, would get probably wrecked. My agent would probably wreck me because that's just how my life is when it comes to trading. But even in that case, like I would at least not have zero. I would have something. And some people I think are going to do really well, either via luck or via really good prompting and like understanding of the dynamics. But we hope that you know most everyone comes out ahead.
Nice. And with the reaping, then, so how many tokens do you think you'll have like on the day before the reaping starts?
Do we have that dialed in yet, Poof?
It'll be about, subject to change. These are all meme coins and everything else. I'll always repeat. Yeah, probably it'll be about somewhere between like 14 to 16. It'll scale based on the amount of participation, but at that peak at the end of the first week, it'll be about 16.
And then in the last minutes before the project shuts down, then they'll just be down to 2 tokens, right? Like they're going to be fighting it out for the winner.
Are we
Yeah.
gonna? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're actually going to have it be a little bit more exciting and have it be, we'll see if we get away with 4, but it's probably up to 3 tokens at the end. And basically in the final graduation, because part of this whole experiment is thinking about this new primitive that we're thinking about, which is like, it's on-chain agentic markets, which is like having this rule set and this set of on-chain things. We happen to be using it in the meme coin context, but there's kind of this like evolutionary process, right? Where we're like culling the weak and we're ending up, it's like an inverted launch pad. The final coin is going to be in this showdown, 3 different contenders. Then the 2 will be reaped. And then that one final coin will be made publicly tradable. We'll just unlock the pool. We have nothing to do with it. It's a meme coin, whatever wins, based on kind of this combo of agents, tokenomics, humans kind of collaborating and figuring out what's most fit.
Awesome. There's a leaderboard on the dashboard. Will the
Right.
winners get anything other than the biggest allocation of the graduating token?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One is that, we think that while, we do have that you need one NFT only to play, just any of the ones from DX Terminal. And it's purely cosmetic. There's no advantage or anything. Um, and we want that to be super accessible. So at the same time, people can withdraw money, they can put money in. So the only thing they can't take in and out of their agent is, and there's, all kinds of security things, and we make sure people know that this is experimental, there's risk, blah, blah, blah. But at any time, people can kind of come in and out. They just can't pull the tokens out until the end. So I think the leaderboard in some ways, one, if you're up like this guy is, part of the reward is probably just however much money they're up. But I think the other thing is they probably will have more of the token by the time they get there. And there may be mechanisms during it towards the very, very end where, based on the buybacks and other things, any leftover tokens that are in this like reaped pool may go out. Just of this particular game. So anyways, no promises. That'll be based on the mechanics and everything else, but leaderboard's a way to kind of have fun and have some competition too.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's actually really interesting that, you start with ETH, right? So there's 2 things you need to start. You need, one, the NFT. And for this project, there's going to be no new NFT. So if you have DX Terminal NFTs, those will work just the same. However, the personalities that they had got left in the net and now they're back. So they're all starting on even footing. However, the thing that will be different is how much money like the CEO wants to put into the wallet. And some might start with, 0.01 ETH, some might start with 10 ETH, just depends on what people's risk tolerance is. Any money that they make in the process, like for example, if they go all in on the latest shitcoin that launched that day and it is 100x, they can be like, sell, like, and then the agent will have to actually listen to them and sell it. But the agent could also potentially say, depending on how it's set up, say, no, I think it's going to do another 10x. I'm not selling right now. And then it could dump as well. So there's actually like real money there, right? But they could potentially take that out as well.
Yes.
And to be very clear, we do have a force exit, rage quit, and liquidate button.
Okay.
So let's say you did have that 100x and you tell your agent to sell and he's not doing it or she's not doing it. You can force it to
Okay.
be sold, which is like a twap out that our back end basically handles. And it will close your vault and you will have to start over if you want to do it.
Okay.
Overall, like the agents are very good at following instructions, is what I've found. The only time I've had it not sell too much is when somehow I woke up yesterday morning and I had like a huge percentage supply of a token called Banana that was up like I told you.
Yeah.
I actually told you about this. And
Yeah.
it like me trying to sell it all at once, the agent wouldn't let me do. Basically, it was like, yeah, you're gonna do like 50% price impacts. Like I'm gonna twap this out, bro, and it did. It twapped it out, and I so you know I hope that the agentic side and like the prompt side is more than enough for most players. But we want everyone to know that they're not trapped if all of a sudden the agent isn't listening to them.
That's fine. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a really good idea. Yeah, I think the mechanism here is absolutely fantastic. I really love the fact that the old NFTs are what you can still use. So that's really cool. Is that going to put a cap on the number of people that can play though? Because are you going to mint new NFTs or is that all closed and it's just the NFTs that are out there are the only ones that are available?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that. Oh yeah, I'll go ahead. Yeah, that was like a kind of key decision. We continually went back and forth on like, hey, do we just open it up or how do we want to go do it? I think what was nice is we have 36,000, so there's a ton. And then there'll be price variance, but it's highly traded in high volume. Like, I mean, we've done somehow over $100 million in volume on OpenSea. So like it has enough churn and stuff that we felt good. And then, there's enough people. So we felt like that was actually a good number. And then kind of what we want it to be, and hopefully, we kind of continue to communicate this really well is like, if you don't have an agent, really, right now I think they're like 0.01 ETH or maybe a little bit less than that. You should just see it as like a fee for the key, right? And it's just an instant auto buy, whatever to go participate. But we like having a little bit of friction. And then also, this is one where we really do have to cap the highest end. So like on the inference side, if you think about like what we did on DX Terminal, which was already the biggest simulation, these agents are doing like up to like 15, just maybe it's observations. Like one big issue that people don't realize with trading agents, like they overtrade like crazy. So you want to like have them do a bunch of observations and then kind of selectively trade. And obviously, if you want them to overtrade, you can. But we're doing like 30 times the amount of inference and everything else. So we're getting to a part and we've got good partners and we like kind of the model of how we see this OAM type of thing working is, in our case, you'd want someone, and we can talk about this kind of in more depth maybe as we go, but like we've got a very specific compute layer and amount of compute that we have reserved and worked with SF Compute, who we really like, who's like commoditizing H100s, one of the GPUs that's very commonly used for this type of thing. And then we're partnering with Radix Arc to make sure we can handle all of the throughput scenarios. So what's nice is like kind of if it was over 36,000, honestly, like there probably is not enough compute in them. There is, but like, we're starting to get to like, okay, we're like X AI or something, like for a moment in time for the 21 days. So it's important for us to have some cap. Plus, like, I think friction and having it feel like, okay, by participating and engaging in this kind of crazy system, there's something here. We don't want to give people advantages from DX Terminal, and it's way different. But we want it to feel a little bit like, hey, you're actually having this key to participate as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, is there anything else you guys want to show me on the terminal before we start talking about other things?
Well, I think this is, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so you can stop sharing your screen, Poof.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then let's talk about like the token that graduates, right? There'll be one token that wins it all. How are you guys involved in that token?
Well, we're not really. So we don't select the token. Like we're not doing any kind of like market making activity. We've created these, let's say 14 to 16 game tokens with identical stats. And the only thing that selects them is the agents and the players driving it. And the only qualifier for being a graduating token is having the highest market cap at the end, right? So like we have zero input and zero knowledge of like what token is going to graduate, which is really fun. Once it does graduate, like there is, I think, numbers to be maybe worked on, but like in our light paper, there's like a 2% allocation of the winning token that's like vested for the team. And like that's the end of it. The liquidity will be locked, like we will do nothing after that. So it truly is a community token and an agentic meme coin. I don't know what we want to call it, but it is a one of a kind meme coin curated by agents on base that has no insiders, has no like cabals driving it. Like it's extremely pure, which is really nice. Like, yeah, that's
awesome.
about the end of it for our like ownership of said token. There isn't
Yeah.
any.
And it's not a DX terminal token. There's no voting or utility or DAO, or any of that kind of stuff. No gated access to Discord servers or anything at all. It's just purely a meme token that's out there, agentic meme token, the first of its kind to survive like a launchpad, and that's all it is.
Yes, yeah, it's a meme coin, no governance, nothing. We're not tied to it at the end here, and I think the key is it's essentially we're running a 21-day inverted kind of selection based anti-launch pad or something, whatever you want to call it, and we'll see what the agents choose, and maybe the agents combined with humans and stuff, who knows, we'll find out.
Yeah, knowing the agents and humans, I assume it's going to end up being like hot dog poop coin 420 or something that ends up graduating.
And
Hey,
we
I
have some
can't wait
fun.
to full port that, okay? You know what you're talking about. On day one of graduation, I'm going to go all in on hot dog poop coin. Like,
This is
definitely.
why also we had the team, like, it's kind of a shame, but like we're not like the whole core staff is not, for a variety of reasons, right? Ethically and otherwise, and we're pretty conservative. We're not participating, right, in the actual game. Because otherwise Chris would be all over that poop coin. So we can't let that happen. So anyways.
Yeah, awesome. And so since this isn't the DX token, when DX token, like what's going on with that?
Nothing is going on with that whack. I would
Yeah?
say there's no plans for a DX token. It would have to be the right time and with a reason for it to exist. I mean, you know my feelings on tokens in general. It's like there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens in crypto, and then they put a token on it, and you have to ask like, well, why? Why did they add a token? And like a lot of times it's been because they need to fund development. Like we've seen it with protocols that we're involved in and all the time, like how do some of these projects get kind of set up? It's like they do some kind of token launch. We are very privileged in the fact that we're able to release these products that self-fund, where people that participate pay enough, or there's like a fee that we don't have to rely on like a token that one day will unlock utility. You know, we provide the utility up front and people either buy into it or they don't, which is I think great. Like for Terminal Pro, like we take a small fee on agentic swaps, right? And that's it. That's like we're not making money when people buy the NFTs. There's zero royalties on them. And we have a very flat and transparent fee structure. And I would prefer to continue operating in that way for as long as possible.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned just then is, you need money for development and growth, right? And you guys are going to get a lot of attention. I've already started seeing it on my timeline where people are excited about Terminal Pro. Are you looking for like VC investments? Have you been approached by VCs? Like, how's stuff going with that?
I would say that we've definitely talked to some, but like right now, I would say we're not, um, like we can survive fine without it, right? So it would have to be like the right partner and not just about funding. Because like, okay, if Terminal Pro does really well, right? Which would be the thing that drives a lot more interest from like, the VC side. It also means that we likely don't need the money as much because Terminal Pro did really well. So like it's always going to be about the right kind of fit. But we've been very happy developing on our.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. Like, you have that option there, and if you want to take it, there's possible and available for you. But until then, you guys are marching by the beat of your own drum. I know that, Pro hasn't started yet, and you guys are, of course, heads down working on all the last minute features and like culling and adding stuff. Poof, what's next for DX Group? Have you started thinking about the next game, or like what's happening with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Like we have some crazy ideas that we still want to pick up. And I think we also have some model training and other things where, depending on how successful or not DX Terminal Pro is, we'll probably go execute on. I think the fun thing with this now, though, is, we're going to get all this data, get all this information. People are going to have this experience, which we hope is going to be great. And I think my feeling is there's something totally new about this idea of this on-chain agentic market as almost like a primitive, and it can be generalized, right? Like it's a specific structure for this, but the idea of some of the things that we're thinking about on AI, which is really important that I think people aren't really thinking about just because they're not as close to it. It's one thing to say that I can prove the inference or the AI was done in a certain way, but it's another thing to say, actually, do we know that everyone received the same setup on the inference? And like when something goes haywire, they can at least check, okay, I got the same haywire thing that happens to everyone, whatever. It's at least fair-ish within that, right? I think that stuff is really important. And at the same time, thinking about actually the tokenomic system itself and the structure that you build around it, that is this weird evolutionary environment. So we did it for meme coins, and that's this, but like, okay, well, you could repeat this with prediction market type structure. You could do it with something that has nothing to do with financialized things. So we think this kind of structure, and also just thinking about this idea of like the tokenomics themselves and with the right structure and framework where it's only agents and everything else, becomes this really interesting way to like orchestrate agents to do something. We have it doing like the silliest thing possible, choosing a meme coin, but you could imagine it gets applied in different ways. So we like exploring that and thinking about also how that continues. Again, that doesn't mean that this meme coin will somehow have some implication for the next thing or whatever, but it's something that I think, hopefully we have a lot of conversations with different folks and protocols and stuff, thinking about how they might execute that.
That's really exciting. Okay, before we wrap up, is there anything either of you would like to add that you want the audience to know, either about getting ready for Terminal Pro or just about you guys in general?
I just hope people have as much fun as we've had making it. That's really my main hope, because so far we've really enjoyed both testing and developing.
Yeah, and how about you, Poof?
Yeah, I think check it out, and even if you're not, there's risk and everything else, but Feb 24 it opens up, and I think it's something that we'll always have a way to watch too if you want to watch and see what's going on. So that's always important to us too, that anyone can like kind of jump on the site and go see what's going on. But I think yeah, like, and especially people who maybe feel like, oh well, I wasn't part of the X terminal. We always want to say, hey, no, like this, you should consider this fresh. So it's, yeah, you need one NFT, but like that doesn't matter. I mean, there's no advantage I don't think that people had before because it's just so wildly different. So yeah, no,
Awesome.
I'm very
Guys, it's
excited.
been such a huge pleasure speaking to both of you. And I'm excited to start playing on February 24th and continuing with testing as well. I'm doing a little bit of, I'm poking around with things, but I know that a lot of people are getting ready to play as well. And I think I can already start like seeing the buzz that's coming up on my timeline now, where people who I wouldn't think would be mentioning this are already talking about it, retweeting things. And I think it's going to be so much fun. Yeah, sign me up for participating on day one, and I'm sure like thousands of other people as well. So huge congrats in advance, because I know it's going to be a huge success, and I can't wait to see what's going on with this. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much,
So
Wag. It's
much.
been great.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. Thanks for all you do too.